Everyone, Beyond TCG here, bringing you yet another episode reviewing the Pokemon Horizon Rising set. And today I know is a hype one for everyone because we're going over the Fairy Pokemon, which, yes, are back for this set. You don't have to worry about them in the actual Pokemon TCG. You can enjoy some custom new cards here. And Dragon Pokemon, which I know everyone loves as well because they're always powerful and they're full of these multi-energy decks. So, yeah, let's start checking those out. Before that, as always, I just want to remind everyone these cards are made at the pokecardmaker.net/creator. Awesome website. It's always getting updated. This video is not sponsored or anything. I just wanted to shout them out to be able to make these awesome cards, and I hope you'll check it out as well. All right, so what are we going to see today? So the dragon cards are a little bit less than the normal count that I have for all the other types. And when you see the full set review, you'll notice there's kind of a consistent pattern of what I designed. But as we can see here, we're going to get 3 non-evolving fairy basics and 4 non-evolving dragon basics. There'll be 4 fairy basics that evolve into a stage 1, and 3 dragon basics that evolve into a stage 1. But both will have the same amount of 2 basics that turn to a stage 1 that turn into some game-winning stage 2 Pokemon. And as always, just a disclaimer that I'm not taking credit for any of the artwork here. This artwork is all just kind of found from the internet in order to enhance how the cards look. Those artists are awesome and all credit goes to them. All right, let's go through the quick refresher as always. First, we're going to start off with our fairy Pokemon. So first, they're going to have a lot of trickery effects. So when I say trickery, that might mean things like discarding cards from hand, but it also could involve some prize manipulation. We'll see some different things there. And speaking of prize manipulation, we'll see that Fairy, kind of similar to what the Ultra Beasts used to do in the Sun and Moon era, they can oftentimes interact with the prize pool itself. Now, in different ways, maybe they borrow attacks or things like that. But anyway, let's check out some cards. Let's not even speculate anymore and see what they're doing. Alright, so our first off non-evolving basic here is Igglybuff with 70 HP. For a colorless energy, it has friendly help. Search your deck for a special energy card, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Shuffle your deck. So again, specifically special energy card, which is super cool. We'll see a little bit later what different options you might be tempted to look for. And then float up, Fairy, return this Pokemon and all cards attached to it back to your hand. Draw 3 cards. So this is just great that you can get Igglybuff out, find maybe some special energy that your deck needs specifically, and get it back out next turn, and then get some card advantage while you're at it. Next up, we have Xerneas here with 130 HP. It has the ability Resurrection. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you may put a basic Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench, and Fairy colorless Moonblast 100 damage. Again, just a really nice ability that you can throw in your deck in case you have any basics in your discard pile that you need to get back to keep your deck going. This is a little bit better than maybe using some item card, and I'm sure there's some other strategies that can synergize with it. And then next up here for our final one, we have Comfey with 90 HP. It has the Flora Finder ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, search your deck for a basic energy card, reveal it, and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck, and then Fairy, Healing Gift, 20 damage, and then heal 30 damage from one of your benched Pokemon. Again, this is another card just like the Xerneas that I expect some decks to play just because of its utility. I expect it actually to be even more common in Dragon decks, ironically enough, since you're usually playing some dual energy deck. But again, this gets another card out of your deck. It's a basic energy. I expect this Comfey to see a lot of play. All right, let's evolve into some evolving basics now. First, we have Alolan Vulpix. Now, you might be saying, hey, that's not a fairy. Well, we'll see one soon enough. And this kind of will equal out the number of water cards. You probably saw they had a little bit less than normal than everyone else. 60 HP. Beacon for free. Search your deck for 2 Pokemon, reveal them, and add them to your hand. Shuffle your deck. And then Sleepy Snow, colorless. The opposing Pokemon's now asleep. 20 damage. Anyone who's played during the Sun and Moon era will recognize that this is really similar to the Alolan Vulpix there, and my attitude with that one is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The card was so good as is. I think any Alolan Vulpix that comes afterwards will be kind of insulting if it doesn't generally do the same thing, and so it does. But in this case, it's going to evolve into a really unique Alolan Ninetales here with 110 HP. First, the attack, Falling Stars, Fairy colorless. This attack does 10 damage times the number of cards in your hand. Okay, attack. And then the ability Ninetales Gathering. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may shuffle your prize cards into your deck. Then for each prize card shuffled this way, choose a card in your deck and prize it, then shuffle your deck. Okay, so there's a lot going on here, and this is, if you remember all the way back in the first episode with the grass and fire types, there was a Celebi that I said pay attention to, and that's part of what's going on here. So basically, when you play Alola Ninetales, you just ensure that you know what your prize cards are. You get to pick exactly what those prizes are. And obviously, I would definitely encourage that you pair that with Celebi, who can grab you some prize cards if your Pokemon on the bench can evolve from those prize cards. So definitely rewatch that episode and you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'm sure in the future I will post a deck list episode. But even without doing that whole combo, it's just generally awesome that you can use a little Ninetales to make sure that whatever you need is in your deck. I can think of so many times that I've needed a prize card and it's been stuck there, and I've wanted this card to exist. All right, checking out our next fairy Pokemon, we have Clefairy here with 80 HP. Fairy Colorless, Star Gathering. Search your deck for 2 basic energy of 2 different types and attach them to one of your Pokemon. Shuffle your deck. So you can't grab Fairy Fairy. It's got to be like Fire and Fairy or Water and Lightning, you know, whatever you want. Very good for Dragon decks, as you can imagine. And then Colorless, Moonlight Blessing, deals 60 damage, shuffle your hand into your deck, then draw 6 cards. Again, this is great. It's literally Cynthia attached to an attack, so you know it's going to be good. Yeah, 3 energy is a decent amount, but still, you're getting Cynthia and you're dealing damage. And Clefairy evolves into Clefable here with 130 HP. It has the Star Shifting ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve a Pokemon during your turn, you may move all energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon to one of their benched Pokemon. And then Fairy, Colorless, Moonblast, 70 damage. Your opponent's active Pokemon does 30 less damage during their next turn, so kind of similar to how Moonblast can sometimes cause a special attack drop. But most importantly here, this ability, this was kind of inspired by, I believe Sword and Shield had a Psychic type Clefable that shuffled in an energy or something like that. This is just another interesting way to kind of do some energy removal, kind of, again, the trickery to keep your opponent from comboing off too much. And yeah, just an exciting card. Obviously, the drawback is then they go on one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, and that may come to bite you later. But hey, just all part of the game. All right, our next evolution, we start with Swirlix here with 70 HP. It has Fairy Wind, Fairy Fairy, 50 damage, but most importantly, Fairy Candy Appeal. You may return up to 3 Pokemon in your discard pile with 90 or less HP to your bench. So again, just another great card for resurrecting those baby Pokemon that you need to evolve on if they got knocked out early, and just kind of keep that card advantage going. And it evolves into Slurpuff here with 120 HP. It's got the Sweet Veil ability. Whenever you attach a Fairy energy to one of your active Pokemon, heal all status conditions from that Pokemon. And then Fairy Colorless, Sugar Rush, 60 damage, heal 60 damage from this Pokemon. So that ability, I know in the normal Pokemon TCG, you don't have statuses that come up too much, so it might seem kind of not that impressive. But as you can see in this format, the statuses, they're more common, they're more powerful, and maybe you get like a Carnivine from the Grass and Fire episode again that makes sure that you can't like swap out or do anything while paralyzed. And that's where Slurpuff brings that counterplay in for you. So, you know, if you're ever seeing statuses start to take over the meta game, this is a great utility card to have. All right, next up, we're going to start with our final single stage evolving. We have Milcery here with 50 HP. It has the Cake Topper ability. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon could be evolved on, and you have an Alchemy in your discard pile, you may evolve that Alchemy onto this Pokemon. And then Fairy Colorless Healing Liquid, 30 damage, heal 30 from this Pokemon. So this is just a really cool Pokemon because basically you can evolve your Alchemies from the discard pile onto it. So maybe you can discard your Alchemies for effects or just make sure that you have that card advantage going, which is awesome. And naturally, it evolves into Alchemy here. 100 HP, Fairy Energy, Sparkling Celebration. This attack does 30 damage times the number of Fairy Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. This card's kind of a personal joke to me because there's a Clefable that came out sometimes during the Sun and Moon era that had an attack that looked like it did this, but it actually did something else. And I always thought, dang, it would be much better if it was this attack. So then I made this card because I think that's better overall. So, and obviously, again, this is extra good because even if your Alchemy gets knocked out, a new Milcery could evolve into that Alchemy from the discard pile. So, really, really cool. All right, let's start with our triple evolutions now. We begin here with Flabebe with 30 HP. It has the Field of Flowers ability. If this Pokemon is on your bench, you get an extra bench space. If this ability stops working, you lose that bench space and discard a bench Pokemon if your bench is full, and then flower picking, colorless draw a card. So this is really cool just for getting more bench space for a later evolution that'll synergize with, but you know, never know. It's just kind of a free bench Pokemon overall. It evolves into Floette here with 100 HP. It has the Guardian Sprite ability. All of your bench Pokemon get plus 20 HP. And then Flower Hide Fairy, 30 damage. Switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. First off, just a great way of keeping your benched Pokemon alive. This ability activates not only in the active zone, but if it's on the bench, so you can stack them to keep your benched Pokemon safe. And Floette cards, they always seem to switch with the bench, so again, I kept that theme going. And finally, we evolve into Florges here with 190 HP. First, it has Fairy Rosestorm. This attack does 20 damage times the number of your Pokemon in play. Now, again, that's 20 times 6. That's 120 for a single Fairy. Energy is quite good. And then, obviously, if you have some Flabebes on your bench, you can just start increasing that attack even more to make it a huge amount of damage. And then, Fairy Colorless Life Bloom. If your opponent has 5 or less prize cards, add the top card of your opponent's deck to their prize cards. You can only use this attack once per game. So this is basically like a GX or V-Star attack. Just a great way to kind of come back into the game. It costs 3 energy, but you know, at 3 in a stage 2, you should have an effect like that. So really cool one there. And next up, you'll recognize the basic here, Impodim, with 70 HP and has the Last Trick ability. When this Pokemon is knocked out, you may look at your opponent's prize cards and choose which prize card or cards is taken for knocking out this Pokemon. If you're thinking why it's plural there, you got to remember effects like Arceus Dialga Palkia Tag Team GX that might use their own GX move and then make Impidimp worth 2 prize cards. And then for Fairy Colorless as Stealth Swipe, 30 damage. Your opponent discards a random card from their hand. So again, you can see all the trickiness that I've been talking about, especially on this card. It evolves into Morgrim with 120 HP. Fairy Colorless Flower Hide, 80 damage. This attack's damage cannot be reduced. And then Fairy Colorless Thief's Hands, 50 damage. Your opponent reveals their hand. You may discard 2 cards from it. So again, just kind of continuing that tricky theme where it's getting around attacks or discarding cards in the hand. But this next card should be very exciting. Grimmsnarl here with 220 HP. For Fairy, Hair Whip, not Hairy Whip, 90 damage. This attack is unaffected by the abilities of your opponent's Pokemon, which is pretty good. But check out this one. Fairy Screen Cage does 140 damage. During your opponent's turn, if they play a supporter card, after its effect occurs, their turn ends. So if you use this attack and the next turn your opponent plays Cynthia, that's it. No attacks for them. They just played their supporter and their turn ends. Really, really awesome control card. I think some decks are just going to immediately scoop up after they get hit by an attack by this one. So just another great example of a game winner. All right, time to move into the Dragon Pokemon. I know there's a lot of excitement for that one too. First off, as always, Dragon Pokemon, just like in the TCG, are going to use 2 different types. And over time, as I reveal more and more Dragon cards, you'll notice that I kind of tried to make sure that every single type combination would have some sort of dragon representing them. Not always easy, but definitely tried to make that work there. And then oftentimes they'll be stealing extra prize cards as well. We'll see some cards that do things along those lines. So yeah, let's hop in and take a look at some dragons. All right, so first with our non-evolving basics, Giratina here with 120 HP. Grass Psychic Shadow World. This attack does 100 damage for each of the following conditions. Your opponent's active Pokemon has a special energy attached, your opponent's active Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached, or your opponent has a stadium in play. So this card is very much made to be like an anti-meta threat, where if your opponent just starts using any of the following, I mean, if they even get 2 of those, that's 200 damage for only 2 energy. That's crazy. And if you get all 3, I mean, you're basically knocking out anything that gets in your way. So just kind of a great card. If you can splash that in any deck where you happen to be running Grass and Psychic, I mean, you might as well keep it around and then get some free knockouts here and there. Next up, we have Arceus here with 110 HP. This should be really familiar. Um, Water, Dark, Metal, Altered Creation. Put this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into the Lost Zone. For the rest of the game, all of your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage, and if your opponent's Pokemon is knocked out, take one more prize card. Yes, this is ADP. This is just one where I wanted to show, I think that's a cool card, but I think just the numbers don't really match up on the card, and this is kind of like the fixed version. I referenced the Lost Zone early, and gonna hold that in reservation for later, so stay tuned for future sets. But again, just a kind of another balanced version. I mean, this is still a crazy ability. It's a very expensive cost, but if you get it off, as we all know, it's basically game winning. So just another cool card there. Continuing on here, we have Zygarde, a preview card that you may recognize with 130 HP. Grass Fighting for Dragon Dance. During your next turn, this Pokemon's attacks does 30 more damage, and if you knock out the opposing Pokemon, take an extra prize card. And I forgot to fix the name of this attack, but it'll just be Screen Cage again. Grass Fighting Colorless, 120 damage. So obviously this one's really fun, where if you get that Dragon Dance off, you deal 150 and grab 2 prize cards if you get the knockout. So very flavorful of Dragon Dance. And then up next we have Regidrago here, 110 HP, Fire, Dark, Dragonic Revenge. If one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may use the attack of a Pokemon in your discard pile, ignoring its energy cost. And then, well, I still continue with the typos. Screen Cage one more time. Every attack Screen Cage. Fire, Dark, Dark, 140 damage. Moral of the story is you're mostly going to be focused on that Dragonic Revenge anyway. The fact that you can bring Regidrago back out and then just choose anything that's in your discard pile and use the attack for free. I'm sure people can think of a lot of fun decks. Yeah, you got to give up a prize card, but, I think it's worth it. All right, continuing on, now we're going to go into some evolutions. We start with Swablu here with 50 HP. Cloud Guard, this Pokemon takes 10 less damage for every damage counter on this Pokemon. So again, it doesn't have that much HP, but in case it takes 40 damage, it's already preventing another 40. So just a small way to defend itself from other attacking basics. And then it has Colorless Sing. The opposing Pokemon is now asleep. But you evolve it into what I expect to be the dragon staple, Altaria here. Rainbow Clouds. All energy attached to your dragon Pokemon can pay for any energy type, but only one type at a time. And then for Metal Fairy, does a Fluffy Bomb 90. I mean, as soon as you get Altaria down, all your dragons become online, and then your dragon deck is functioning, and you don't care what energy is attached because they all pay for everything. So again, I expect to see a lot of people using this one. Up next, we have Noibat here with 60 HP. For Lightning, it has Echo Beam, 20 damage. The opposing Pokemon is now confused. And then Lightning Darkness, Item Thief. Your opponent reveals their hand. Discard all revealed item cards. I could see the second attack definitely being a lot more annoying if it gets pulled off. You don't deal any damage, which is a little bit slow, but I mean, sometimes that can just shut a whole deck down if you just nab all the item cards out of their hand. And it evolves into Noivern here with 110 HP. It has this really cool ability, Echoing Symphony. Once during your turn, for each basic energy type, you may attach an energy of that type from your hand to one of your Pokemon. You cannot use the Echoing Symphony ability more than once per turn. So what did I mean by that? Basically, this is trying to incentivize you and your Dragon deck to have as many different basic energy types in your hand. So I don't know if you have like a Lightning, Dark, Fire, Water, you can just drop all of those from your hand onto your Dragon Pokemon. So just another way to kind of keep the deck going. And then Lightning, Darkness, Sound Blast, 20 damage. This attack does 20 damage times the number of cards more your opponent has in their hand than you, which is great because if you use the Echoing Symphony ability properly, you probably got your hand really low by dropping a bunch of energy from your hand. And now the Sound Blast attack does extra damage. So great synergy there. All right, up next, we're going to look into an Ultra Beast with Poipole here, 70 HP. Psychic, Inflict Poison. The opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned. And then Psychic Colorless, Poison Crown. This attack does 10 damage times the number of prize cards you have remaining. Really simple, basic here. But now we're going to see the reward for having all these Ultra Beasts in your deck. And you may remember Buzzwole and Stakataka as some examples and earlier ones. With Naganadel, 110 HP, Ultra Glide. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve a Pokemon during your turn, reveal your prize cards. For each energy revealed in your prize cards, you may attach the energy to this Pokemon, and then you must add a card in your hand to your prize cards. So number one, this one's really cool. If your prize card has, like let's say a Lightning, a Psychic, and a third energy there, you basically swap some cards in your hand and just automatically get the energy attachments to Nagana Dell, which is great. And then there's some specific cards we're going to put from our hand into the prize zone, hopefully. Lightning, Psychic Colorless, Final Needle. Reveal your prize cards. This attack does 100 damage plus 50 more damage for each Ultra Beast among your prize cards. So this allows you to make a super awesome Ultra Beast deck, and you might even remember Guzzlord from the Dark Metal episode. You play him from your bench and then you swap him with one of your prize cards. So that's just a quick way to make this attack deal more damage. You can already see here this is a fully functioning Ultra Beast deck with a lot of fun strategies that you can do, and yeah, I look forward to seeing people play it. So again, just a cool dragon card overall. All right, the moment you've been waiting for, some stage 2 evolutions. We'll start with Dratini here with 70 HP. Lightning Fairy, Destined Evolution. Search your deck for a Dragonair card and evolve it onto this Pokemon. If you do, search your deck for a Dragonite card and evolve it onto the Dragonair, then shuffle your deck. I mean, yeah, if you're playing Dratini, you want to get Dragonite out as fast as possible, and if you do that attack, that's exactly what happens. It evolves into Dragonair here with 120 HP. If you take your time, you'll get rewarded with some cool attacks here. Fairy, Dragon's Blessing. During your next turn, if you evolve onto Dragonair while it is your active Pokemon, heal all damage from the new evolution, so that's great. Or you can choose Lightning for Dragon's Rage. During your next turn, if you evolve on the Dragonair while it's your active Pokemon, and the Pokemon it evolved into knocks out the opposing Pokemon, take an extra prize card. So this is kind of really cool where Dragonair is just setting up for the Dragonite, whether you want to choose the offensive route and grab some prizes, or if you want to choose the defensive route and completely heal it, that's something you get to choose. And then you get rewarded with Dragonite here, 220 HP. Starts off with Lightning, Dragon Dance. You may attach up to 2 energy from your discard pile to this Pokemon. Then you have Lightning Fairy Colorless Overrun, 170 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by this attack, you may deal any excess damage to the new active Pokemon your opponent chooses next. And then Lightning Fairy Colorless Draco Meteor, 300 damage. So for 5 energy, you should basically knock out any single thing that you attack. Dragonite charges itself up, and the Overrun attack actually takes inspiration from Dragonite EX Delta species. It's a grass type one. You'll see it has a similar attack here. I mean, this card just deals loads of damage, grabs a tons of prize cards, it loads itself up. It's everything that you'd be looking for from a stage 2. All right, and now we're going to take a look at the final Pokemon line for today. We start off with Bagon here with 80 HP. It has Fire, Intimidating Roar, 10 damage. Your opponent switches their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. And then Water, Dragon Rage, 10. You may return an energy attached to the opposing Pokemon back to its owner's hand. So again, kind of similar to the Dragonair we saw, there's kind of 2 different options you can pick between to deal your damage accordingly. It evolves to Shelgon here with 130 HP. It has the Heavy Armor building. This Pokemon takes 50 less damage from attacks from Fire, Water, Lightning, and Grass Pokemon. So kind of similar to Dragon's Normal's resistances. And then Fire, Water, Head Bash deals 90 damage. And as always, we got to be rewarded with an awesome Stage 2 Pokemon with Salamence here, 220 HP. Water, Inhale. You may attach up to 2 energy from your hand to this Pokemon. So again, just like the Dragonite, it's able to power itself up. Draco Claw, Fire, Water, Colorless. If your opponent's active Pokemon has a rules box, that Pokemon is knocked out. Now, there's no Pokemon in this set with the rules back, but definitely stay tuned. I think you're going to be excited to see what comes in the future. And it's good to know that this card exists that can just auto-knock them out. But if you decide to play this, mix it up with your actual Pokemon decks, this just knocks out VMAXs and V-Stars and all sorts of annoying things like that. So that should be incentive enough to play it as is. And then Fire, 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 Water, Water, Dragon Blast. Your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out. I don't think there's really anything else I can say besides, you pull this off, you earn that knockout. So that's going to be it for our Fairy and Dragon cards. I hope those are as hype as you were expecting them to be. I mean, these are some of my favorite types to design for, and there's so many cool ideas in the future. All right, stay tuned, folks. There's only 2 episodes left of the entire set review. Next week, we're going to be going over the normal Pokemon, and then we're going to get into our item cards, which obviously are very important to your deck. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if there's any cards that will really stand out to you or any deck ideas you already come up with, definitely let me know in the comments. Leave a like. Any other support is greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for staying with me. I've been Beyond TCG. and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.